Hey, what's up? My name is Daoud Heidami. I am a real estate agent, co-founder and principal of the Catalyst team at Compass, and welcome to a New York Conversation, where we talk to notable New Yorkers about their New York. Our goal is to also support small businesses, so we'll hear from our guests who their favorite small businesses are, tag them in the repost of this interview. So tonight's special guest is Bill Heck. Bill is a wonderful actor who's been on film, TV, Broadway. You may have seen him in The Good Wife, The Alienist, The Leftovers. He was also in that wonderful Coen Brothers film, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Without further ado, we're going to bring on Bill here in a second. Bill, yes, sir.
Hey. Hello.
What's going on, man?
Living the life, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. I really appreciate you coming on with me, and thank you for doing this.
It's my pleasure.
I'm excited to hear about your New York. I'm here at where we were doing photographs for a listing that we have. So I'm at this really fancy apartment.
Very impressive. Very impressive. I am in the standard New York apartment closet. I've been banished to the bedroom because my wife's out with the kids.
Amazing. So we met each other quite over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Just in the theater world, in the theater community,
world.
right?
Yeah. Through Slant fellas,
yes.
I think initially, right?
Yeah. With Adam and the Mats.
Yeah, Matt Smart, Wes Grantham, theater company that was thriving in the aughts and into the next decade. But
yeah. You've been in New York for some time, and I know we met then, and you've done a ton of theater and film and TV. What's your, you've been really successful. What's your recipe for success in this craft?
I don't believe in recipes
Oh.
for success in entertainment or in, I think there's wisdoms that conflict with one another often. I think I am immediately suspicious of anyone who claims to have figured out a formula of any sort. Because, I think one of the beautiful things about the business, one of the things that makes it accessible, and also one of the truly maddening things about the business is there's no template for how to introduce yourself, how to potentially work your way into things and achieve any sort of longevity or success. There's infinite ways in. So there's something freeing about that. In some ways you can adapt it to who you are and how you operate. There are, maybe a few boxes you have to tick, but nothing revolutionary, just as long as you're available, I guess. So I guess if there's any sort of recipe, it would be to just to say yes as you move forward. I know, especially from our days with Slant Theater Project, or or early days out of school doing theater for 99-seat houses and no pay, which are some of the most spectacular times of my life.
Yeah.
I remember deciding early on to say yes. I was fortunate. I had a built-in alumni community with the University of Evansville undergrad, which is where the Slant guys were from, NYU grad school. And that has served me very well.
Yeah.
Not that I think it's required. Again, I don't think you have to go to school to make yourself work here, but that worked in my case. And because of that community that was built in, there were a lot of people who wanted their scripts read in their apartment, or do a workshop for a week, or get set up in a storefront and do a weekend of shows where you work the ticket booth and the stand, and we're also the fight choreographer and and so I remember early on deciding to say yes to those, even though sometimes you wanted more, or it was tricky to make work with your other job, or even if I think there's at least for me, I guess there was early on a bit of a dance between my ambition for sort of moving my career and um, stereotypical with a stereotypical upward momentum versus like artistic opportunities that would come.
Hmm.
And so deciding that if something sounded fulfilling or if I could fill a space with other people that I trusted, then there was an intrinsic value in that.
Hmm.
And that I think has, it's helped me deal with rejection
Mm.
because it's which is inevitable, because it made me feel relatively early on that I had some space in all of it and that I wasn't entirely beholden to people offering a handout.
Yeah.
Um,
I love this. I love this idea of being available and saying yes. Did you go to? Were you at Evansville with all those guys? Is that how you met them?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I knew them first at Evansville. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So with this saying this idea of saying yes to things, was there a pivotal moment in your career uh, by you being present and available and open?
Uh, there have been many. Uh, I sort of two immediately come to mind, um, though any sort of ranking would be a misguided endeavor. But
That's true.
especially as contextualizing as you just did with remaining available. I remember I moved out to LA in 2007, about 2.5 years after graduating from NYU. I was chasing a girl, and I, had a pretty rough go of it for a few months there, and then a friend of mine, I honestly can't remember who now, invited me to the Brown MFA showcase in LA. The MFA students, it was the end of the year, so they were doing the showcase for agents and managers in Los Angeles. And those things are tricky. They're thankless endeavors and, full of misguided hope. And it's a big horse and pony show. You walk around and show them your teeth. And, they can be great and fun and build a community, but I was not excited to go.
Yeah.
But I went ahead and said, sure, I'm not doing anything. Of course, I can come be supportive and check things out. There, I ran into Bonnie Grissom, who's a casting director. She's in LA now, but just before that was 2007. She had just moved to LA after
Mm.
being a casting associate in Pat McCorkle's office here in New York, where I
Hmm.
was a reader for many auditions. And so I
Oh.
ran into her at this showcase, and she was trying to cast last minute a small part in a show at CTG, the Center Theater Group out there. It was a production of Come Back Little Sheba with Peggy Murkison, and I went in like a few days later and got the job, and from that was introduced to a casting director for The Closer and got my first sort of 2-episode arc on The Closer, and became good friends with the showrunner there, who introduced me to agents and managers. I got good representation out of there, and that sort of started had a lot of struggles in LA still after that, but that really brought me to a kind of next level of experience and exposure to people. And that all happened in a matter of 3 months
Hmm.
in a whirlwind. So that one decision to suck up my pride and my poor attitude and go to this showcase I didn't want to go to tumbled into all these other things that I
Yeah.
still, those relationships are still pivotal to me.
That's great. And
Uh,
and so these events were happening in LA. How did you end up coming to New York?
Well, that's sort of the other major moment that I thought of when you asked this question, which is and this actually started as a yes thing too, in a different
Oh.
way. Um, Forgive me if I'm going too long here, but
No, no.
I
This
connected
is
to the.
fascinating, by the way.
Oh well, I
I'm
hope
really
so.
loving hearing your thought process behind this because everyone has a different idea behind it. So it's really
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I was at what ended up being the end of my residence, my permanent tenure in LA at that point. It was now 2009, and had sort of hit another rough patch, and was asked to do the New Harmony Project, which is I don't know if you've heard that through especially it's so outside of Evansville, Indiana, where I went to undergrad. There is this like utopian one stoplight community that's this arts community by the Wabash in southern Indiana, this beautiful town, and some Evansville students like 35 years ago now founded this New Works conference there every summer. And I'd done a few years previous, was asked to come out and do it again. I think my agents were like not too thrilled that I was going off to Central America, Central United States of America for a few weeks. But I went and had a beautiful time. It's an amazing place. So just on that on its own. And then through that, met this fellow who was the associate artistic director at Hartford Stage at the time, Jeremy
Coen.
Thank you. Of course. Well done. Well done. Yes. Spectacular dude. And we hadn't really worked together at the conference outside of, having some drinks, and it's a small community. And I remember on the flight back to LA, on my stopover in, I think it was Dallas or Minneapolis, similar towns. I got a call from my agent saying, Jeremy Coen has come with this audition, would like you to put yourself on tape for this project. Here are, it was a play. Here are 22 pages of sides. And I busted my ass at this conference. I was exhausted. The last thing I want to do was any kind of audition tape situation.
Yeah.
Not, to speak nothing of 22 pages of theatrical material. So I was not excited about it. And I was like, okay, I just, establish these new relationships would be a poor move to turn that away. How lovely of him to think of me, of course, So I dug in. It was for a play called The Orphan's Home Cycle, which started at Hartford Stage and then transferred to Signature Theater in New York. It was a 9-hour play by Horton Foote, who wrote Trip for Bountiful and Tender Mercies, then the adapted To Kill a Mockingbird for the screen. It's a 9-hour play, and I sort of didn't know anything about it. And for those of you who are listening who have heard or not heard of Horton Foote, he doesn't read really great at first, but he's actually one of the most brilliant American writers of our time. He's sort of considered the American Chekhov. So if you have experience reading Chekhov, it doesn't take right away until you start to really dig in and understand. So this is already the long version of the story. Anyway,
you're good.
95% of my worldly goods that I owned at that time in 2009 are still in my buddy's barn in the Santa Monica Mountains, because I got the job and came here. Everything was revealed, and I played opposite my now wife in the play. We meet in court and have a family, and I kept getting work, and I've been in New York ever since.
That's amazing.
That changed it. That changed the entire face of my life, professionally, personally, artistically, emotionally.
Yeah. Because the relationships you forged from there on out were, obviously you traveled depending on wherever things shoot and whatnot. But having New York as your place is solidified. So New York is your place. Why?
Well, first it was my place because of school, and then it became my place because of my now wife and family.
Because Bill, the reality is that y'all could move anywhere.
Yeah,
you can live in LA if you wanted to, and but there's something that's keeping you here in the city.
And I'll be full disclosure. We've talked a lot about leaving New York. It's not the easiest place to live. And I've got kids. For the first part of the pandemic, we were near my wife's parents outside of Cleveland and taking them through ravines and all sorts of things that you don't have immediately available in New York, and it was wonderful. But here we are still, and
Yeah,
a large part of it is, as you say, the community. The theater community specifically is very uh, welcoming and small, surprisingly small and beautiful. We have neighbors that we're really fond of. There are.
that's nice.
We say hi to the barber every time we pass.
Yeah,
Um,
you have a
and
sense of community there. Yeah.
yeah, and just we're out of town a little this summer, and this last weekend before our kids started school, we sort of ended up accidentally hitting a couple parks all the way up in Washington Heights, and then being down by Houston and the water, and we're over on the east side, and Maggie, my wife, turned to me and it was like, I know we've talked about being outside a lot, but like, and feeling a little trapped in New York sometimes, but actually we can get anywhere like really easily, and have these wealth of experiences all in one day, in this way that's really convenient and available and beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't, I I like imagining being other places, but part of what is beautiful about New York is it represents so many other places. It really is a beautiful amalgam of everywhere in one way or
Yeah.
another. So,
So speaking to that a little bit, what was there something? Well, you're getting some love from Italy, and so shout out
ciao.
from Dane. Was there something that made you fall in love with New York, or was it a series of events?
Uh, surely a series. It was it was a slow burn at first.
Yeah, it's a grind.
There was, I mean, I moved here 3 weeks before 9/11 for school.
Mm,
That was my second day of classes, and
wow.
so immediately New York was very much not my place. Uh, but I have a distinct. I think most people. Well, it's another tricky question. But my experience of the city soon after was one of unity and caretaking,
Mm,
and a real sense of pride and ownership, uh, uh, and that ended up drawing me in. And I had some good friends here from undergrad, but I also had these new classmates, and we became immediately connected in this way. So that put me in a certain mindset of this is where I can do something here. We can do something together here.
mm,
But I was still in grad school. I was in classes or rehearsals 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I didn't really see the city
mm.
really. And I spent the summers out of town, I think, doing like working, living at home and working with my mom. Uh, but I think the thing that really brought me into New York, the thing that really comes to mind is the blackout.
Oh, the
Which was what
2008?
2000? No,
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 11?
no, 2004,
4?
5, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5,
Okay.
early century. I was just out of school. It was definitely before I moved to LA.
Hmm.
No, it would have been 2000, yeah, 2004 or 5. Anyway, a student out of school, Matt Smart,
Yep.
member of Slant, had written a play called Chopin's Preludes that Adam Knight, Slant was directing. It was Kelly Giddish and me and a couple other people, and we were all set. My brother was coming to visit. We were all set to rehearse, and my brother got off the train, and the city went dark. And I was living on 14th Street in the meatpacking district at the time. And after we all kind of collected ourselves, we went over to where we're going to rehearse and decided we can't rehearse. So we all went over to McSorley's, which is one of the oldest pubs in New York City. And they had put all these candles in the middle of every table. And we're just passing out warm beer. And we just drank warm beer around candlelight at McSorley's. And then came back to the front of my apartment and brought all our candles down into the street. And by 2 a.m., like a crowd of 20 people had gathered, and
Oh,
some people had guitars, and we were just
oh,
hanging out and singing. And the bodega across the street was selling warm beer out of their
yeah.
little window, like well past 6 a.m. They sort of took over for this
Oh my
one
God.
blissful night, and it was absolute magic.
Wow.
And I can't imagine that happening anywhere else in quite the same way.
Yeah.
Because again, it was people coming together and investing in joy, in spite of, not that everybody's experience of that night was as
Yeah.
rosy, but
I know, right? It was like
ah,
I what was great about that night for me was that once you got to your neighborhood, it was like the community was out. So
yeah,
you were seeing everybody in the neighborhood, which
yeah,
in some ways you met a lot of people.
yes, right,
I certainly did that night.
yeah,
You're right. That was a magical evening. It really
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite New York corner?
I don't know that I do. I mean, that corner was a very nice corner
Yeah.
that night, down on 14th and Ninth Avenue. No, there's been too many corners, I think. I think that's one of the things I love about New York is
Hmm.
there's no one spot, you know.
Hmm. Is there one in near your neighborhood now that you love?
Um, Not really. Sorry. I know it's very disappointing.
No,
Uh,
no,
uh,
no. Let me ask you this:
yeah.
when you were living on 14th Street, was that the first place you moved to? Where was the first place you moved to when you got to the
The
city?
first place I moved to was it was in Brooklyn. I don't honestly know what the neighborhood was at the time. It may have been Bushwick adjacent. It was like off the JMZ, on the like intersection of uh, um, Broadway and Manhattan, I think.
Hmm.
But it was pretty deep in, and it was um, like right by a bunch of projects, and like it was definitely where I could afford, me and my buddy could afford. It's like the one building that had like sort of cleared out some loft space, and like a bunch of young white students came to move into,
Do
it
you
was one of
remember?
those situations.
Do you remember what you paid in rent for the
I
that?
think it was like around, we both, I think together paid 800, if that. But then the place I moved after that year, I moved into the place on 14th Street where one of my classmates, Manuel Feliciano, had been living for a long time, and it was rent controlled, and it
Yeah.
was a 3 bedroom, but it was like really a 1 bedroom. But that place I paid, this is in the meatpacking district, which has just started becoming all upsettingly trendy and
Yeah.
everything. But I was paying $600 there.
What?
I was there for 6 years, paying
Amazing.
like 600 and change in the middle of one of the hottest neighborhoods in New York City. It was incredible. And in fact, what happened by the end, so it was just me and Mono for a bit, and then Andre Holland moved in with us like a summer or two later. So it was us three bachelors rocking the pad, and of course the landlords, were insane about it because they could have been leasing it at 10 times the amount. So they eventually came after us with there's like a clause in you probably know about this. I don't know if it's the same thing. This would have been 2007, but there's some clause about not having more than one non-blood relation resident that is not on the lease. I
Hmm.
think it was like originally designed to prevent people from renting a place with a bunch of rooms and charging unwitting people a lot of extra rent for those rooms.
Hmm.
So what ended up happening is one of us was going to have to move out, so we wouldn't be like in violation of the lease,
Okay.
but the other option, which Andre and I very seriously pursued, was like if we got a domestic partnership, we'd be
Oh.
clear on the lease, and the deal was so good, we almost went that route. Uh,
That would have been amazing.
we didn't end up doing that because I was engaged at the time to someone I no longer was, didn't end up marrying. But I was like, I'll be out by the wedding date, and they were cool with that. Then, of course, the wedding didn't happen, and this helped precipitate the move to
Oh, okay.
Los Angeles.
Okay. So what was life like when you were sharing this space? Were you like auditioning a lot? Like, what was that world? What world was that? Because I think back on, man, the good old days of just like paying $600 a month and just taking and saying yes to things,
Right.
even if it didn't pay anything. You were just
Right.
like,
Yeah. That was it. That were the heady days, you know. I right out of school, the public theater has a relationship with NYU, so often they'll take students to be in the non-equity ensemble for the plays in the park. So I did that right out of school, and I booked
amazing.
a Bud Light commercial campaign right out of school, and
Oh,
like thought I was fine. You know, like
you
I was like,
made it.
okay, I'm fine. This is gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, it was
Then,
dry for a
yeah,
while
that
thereafter.
stopped.
So it was a lot of saying yes and working. Oh, actually, I my buddy Jeff Galfer got me this job at a PR firm in Chelsea, working like as an office gopher in their samples floor. So they had all the fancy offices on 2 floors, and the floor below that was full of all these designer clothes and accessories and tchotchkes and stuff, and all all day we'd fulfill designers' requests for like photo shoots. They'd want samples of various products, so we'd gather the products they selected and have them ready for the delivery person to take them to whatever photo shoot it would be. I did
Okay.
this for like a couple years, more than a
Yeah,
couple years, I guess. I ended up working for them a little bit when I went out to LA in their LA office.
that's nice.
But it was great. Like it was flexible. You could audition when you had to, or I did like 1 or 2 jobs out of town that I could then come back. You know, one Christmas I brought home like $6,000 worth of discarded designer goods for my family
Dang.
in a suitcase that I just got. But it was kind of a wild turnaround. I did a photo shoot like a couple weeks ago, and the guy who was designing the clothes, who was dressing me, was like, "Hey, the guys at LaForce and Stevens say, hey, they're
Oh,
provided the wardrobe for your
oh,
shoot today," and it
wow.
completely blew my mind.
Wow.
It
That's
totally
amazing.
still kind of does, yeah,
Full circle.
yeah, truly,
That's awesome. So one of the reasons why we started doing these New York conversations was really, because we're New Yorkers, because of COVID, we want to support as many small businesses as humanly possible to keep them
yeah.
going. So tell me about some small businesses that you love, and when I repost this interview, I'll tag them. Maybe they'll get some love thrown their way.
Yeah, especially with kids, like my outro into the the spheres of New York is a little diminished. But I've got Cave Coffee right by that I love to go to. It's our local coffee shop. What really comes to mind is an old Evansville buddy, Joe Boyle, just opened a Chicago hot dog. This is a little antithetical to New York, maybe.
No, if it's
But
in the city.
like right off Prospect Park, I think it's 266 Prospect Park. Did I just see that on Instagram? It's called Dog Day Afternoon, and I
Oh,
think it's actually like right adjacent to where they shot the movie.
oh,
But
that's awesome.
he just opened the stand and is selling Chicago dogs out of there, and all the reports I've seen are pretty solid.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
exactly who we should be
Yes.
supporting,
Yeah.
100%. And Cave Coffee,
Yes. Kahve.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. So I want to play this fun word association game, which I may throw in a word like a restaurant or a pizza joint or something like that, and we'll
All
throw
right.
those small businesses in. So I'm just gonna say the word, and it's New York themed, and whatever comes to mind comes to mind. But give me your favorite New York live performance.
That I was in or saw.
No, that you saw.
Uh, the first thing that comes to mind is the Pillow Man on Broadway. This would have been again like early century
With
with Billy Crudup and Jeff Goldblum and oh shit,
who's the guy with the glasses?
Michael oh no, Oh, that's terrible.
The Pillow Talk. Anyone who's on here now, if y'all can help, look up Pillow Talk and tell us.
Pillow Man,
Oh,
the Pillow Man.
Pillow Man, yeah.
I have to find out. I feel ashamed. Hold
I
on,
do
everybody.
remember. I didn't actually see it, so
Yeah.
you actually saw it.
I did. Yeah. Shit, where is that?
I know. Bill, I love you.
Oh my gosh, terrible. I can't.
You have to know, and you have to know now.
I have to know, and I have to know now. Michael Stuhlbarg, idiot.
That's it.
Stuhlbarg, of course.
With the glasses, yes.
Yes.
What a wonderful actor he is, too.
He's incredible. I'm so embarrassed that I looked up to him deeply since that day. His name totally left my mind. But I remember it being so hitting me in particular because I'd never been scared in a theater before. It was like genuinely terrifying, and there were moments that were like deeply upsetting in ways I didn't think you could be upset in the theater. But that were totally connected to the story of the moment, and everyone was so spectacular. But like literally moments where the whole audience was like horror movie reaction, which I've never before or since seen in a theater.
Wow.
And also like hearts pulling out because of it. It wasn't like a cheap trick, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I'm almost certain it was there was some horror movie icon in attendance that night. I think it was Wes Craven, and everyone was sort of crowding around them, and they were like, I can't believe how scary that was. And that was somehow anointed the evening in that regard.
That's amazing. I love hearing theater stories because thank God the theaters are opening back up.
Yes.
And all of our friends are rehearsing, and end of September, October, we'll get more and more. I know Merry Wives is going on. Passover is happening.
Yes.
It's just I feel so grateful that our community has got the lights back on again.
Yeah, me too.
It makes me happy.
Yeah, it's been a hard go.
It really has, yeah, for everybody. Music, we love Bill Heck, getting lots of love.
Oh, and the music's the fellas I met out in Hawaii. Oh man, hey fellas. Beautiful musicians.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're getting some Hawaii love there.
Yeah, there's a small business go for them. Everyone follow behind the music.
Give me your favorite park in the city.
Damn, that's another hard one. Parks are generally playground centric to me these days with my kids. So we hit a few in Central Park. We were up by Fort Tryon. It's a beautiful heather garden in that park.
That's my hood, Bill. I live there.
Are you up there?
Yeah.
It's great up there. It's really great up there. We're in Hell's Kitchen, and it looks like we're moving another place in town near the boys' school in the neighborhood. And then, as I told you, we were up there this weekend up in Washington Heights. We're like, why aren't we going up here? It's so beautiful and quiet and peaceful and easy. Yeah, I love it up there.
Yeah. Park.
Yeah, it's gorgeous up there. I also remember, I love, it's right in the middle of the shit, but I have very fond memories of early of my New York tenure going to movies in Bryant Park in the summer.
Yes.
Some formative memories there.
And I think they're still doing that. I know they're doing it in
I would imagine so.
Yeah. It's, I'm sure. What about, give me a brunch spot.
Brunch spot. There's a place called Blue Dog Cafe on 50th maybe. That's really good. Right in Hell's Kitchen.
Give me a New York hidden gem.
Let's see. Come back to me on that one.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you two more. But before we do that, I just want to tell our folks that we're here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. For New York. It's called the New York Conversation with our friends. if you don't, there's a lot of people here from Italy and from all over the world, and looks like some Brazilian flags. If you're not here in New York, come visit us. Come support New York. Come support local businesses. Ian Music, is that right? Ian Music.
I'm sure I'm butchering that. Ina Music.
I love it.
Yeah.
And if you're here in New York, you know what you have to do. We're all New Yorkers. We gotta support each other, which is really the goal of all of this. So, all right, I got two more for you. Your favorite place to take a tourist?
Favorite place to take a tourist? God, I haven't taken a tourist anywhere for so long.
I know.
I mean, probably the theater. Honestly.
Yes.
And it's, probably the theater. I like going to the water with people, because I think people don't automatically think of that when they think of New York, and it's a blessing of the city how you just walk right down and hit the Hudson and see the big sky, and it's a real breath of air in the city. It's quite beautiful.
And Sam Days is saying,
and to any and to any pizza place.
Any pizza place. Speaking of pizza places, give me your favorite pizza joint.
Again, I love the variety. There's a place called Baker's that just opened up near us that's really good. I think probably
Pizza?
the one, Baker's Pizza. I think there's one down in the Eastville as well. The one that's maybe closest to my heart is down on 8th Ave, just south of 14th, which is when I spent my years down there. Village Pizza. I have endless slices from Village Pizza, probably more than any other restaurant I've ordered from there.
That's awesome. This is what I'm talking about. Like, let's tag them, and hopefully they get some New York love. I love listening to your stories, Bill, because there's it sounds like you've kind of been all over the place, and you've had lots of memories all throughout the city. So it's the magic that you are, is there for you, and the stories that you tell about your experiences here, which has been kind of really awesome to hear. Now, to that end, as we wrap up, and I want to hear your weirdest, only in New York moment.
The one that comes to mind is actually a little sad.
Oh.
And it's a little bit about New York's a really changing place, and a changeable place, which is one of the beautiful parts of it too. It is constantly shifting. It's flexible. It's always moving. I was doing Cabaret the musical at Studio 54 in like 2015, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And my dressing room was on the 4th floor and overlooked Roseland Ballroom. For anyone who's been down there on 53rd Street, where the dressing rooms faced, between 7th and 8th Avenues, was the backside of Roseland Ballroom, and there was this big, like orange and yellow and black mural of big Roseland. So this is what I saw when I first started the job, and thought loved looking at being in Studio 54 and looking across at Roseland Ballroom, these two iconic spots in New York City. And over the course of, did that for almost a year, and over the course of that time, I slowly saw the ballroom get gutted and demolished and turn into a massive hole in the ground for what is now like some 60-story high rise. I actually, there was like a several week period where they were like selling the furniture out the back, or the back was just open. It was directly across from our stage door. And I went over to one of the guys, like maybe between shows one day, and I was like, can I just go look around? And he's like, yeah, man, go ahead. Take whatever you want. We're just getting rid of all of it. So I walked through this totally gutted. And so this chair was from one of the dressing rooms in the old Roseland Ballroom.
Oh
It's just
my!
like weird, like red velvety, like it's got these sort of studs on
That's so awesome.
like I did a deep clean because God knows what went on in the Roseland Ballroom dressing rooms. Certainly less tame than the Cabaret Studio 54. But I
That's so
stole
rad.
a piece of it because I needed a piece of it. And,
Wow, that's amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. I know
So
it's a sad story, but what an
yeah,
amazing story. Uh,
yeah. It was wild to see.
so cool, Bill. You're amazing and wonderful,
I
and I
got you,
really
Daoud.
thank you, man. I thank you for your time,
It's a
and thanks
pleasure.
for all the New York love and. Um, You're the best, and it was kind of nice just to reconnect and see your
Yeah,
face again. And thank you for your time. Say hi to the family,
yeah.
and be well. And I'll talk to you soon.
Lovely to be with you, Daoud. Thanks so much, man.
All right, take care.
Take care. All right.
Bye.